All of these things that women are judged on in Western society, I can cover it, and I honestly can say that I really feel less exposed and less under the gaze, under the light of being judged on what I look like, because I wear a scarf and because I do cover myself. So practically I think it's a very good thing.
I feel that the hijab also enables me to represent Islam in everything that I do, because Islam is in and of itself a religion that's it's a way of life, and I think wearing the hijab encompasses that way of life as well. Islam dictates that for everything you do you must have reason, so you're always questioning and reevaluating yourself in this world.
Well, if you're looking at the word educated, well, that's important too, because a lot of the Muslim women who actually read about their religion and understand the religious obligations set down on them, they will tend to adopt their principles holistically, and one of them is to observe hijab. You would find even a lot on most occasions now that you'll have a lot of Muslim women who are reading about Islam, observing hijab, and their mothers are not observing hijab. And they would say it's through their understanding and readings into the Islamic teachings that they are choosing themselves to adhere to the principles of Islam. And I think that education is an important aspect of it, because one has to have firm conviction in the Islamic principles. And if they are reading about Islam and being educated about it, I think it's a positive step that they are actually choosing to wear the hijab.
I think if you actually really consider it, there isn't much difference, say, in terms of me and any other non-Muslim female, except that I choose, and I have to emphasise on the fact that the hijab is a choice that I've undertaken and not something that's been dictated upon me by some, overpowering male figure that I have in my life that seems to be a representation of Muslim females in mainstream media. And I think that the fact that Muslim females are always represented as being, very dependent, living in patriarchal societies where they're dictated by their male superiors, I think that's where people find that there is such a distinction between, say, a Muslim female and, your average, very independent Western woman. But I think if you actually ask a Muslim female, or if you actually take time to read about Islam itself, it's probably one of the most liberating religions in terms of her female and her stance within society.
The law of hijab not only is not a patriotic law, it is against it, because it is not supporting men's desire. Protecting men's desire is what we are observing in today's world. That you can see that they are advertising and they are really promoting the culture of nudity, so that lustful men and they just enjoy themselves. So the fact that you see that many men, unfortunately, in a secular world are against hijab and are promoting it, and are trying, in fact, to convince or fool some Muslim women that, or is it that something that your husband is imposing on you, or you'll be subjugated? The whole culture against hijab, the psychology I see behind it is, in fact, because lustful men, they feel that they are deprived of some desire or responses to their desires, and therefore they try to fight against it.
I don't think that the hijab itself is restrictive. I think what is restrictive is society's attitudes towards the hijab and to Muslim females in general. I think in terms of oppression, I think I'd probably feel oppressed if I were having to conform to standards of what a female should look like or should be like.
It is true that in some Muslim cultures that Muslims are denying the women some of their rights. And let's have a point about that we have to decide and to differentiate between what is Islam and what is Muslims. When this is very clear in front of our eyes, then we have to know that Muslims, not all Muslims are adhering to the teachings of Islam. In a similar way, that's the same thing about Christians, Jews, and others. Now, this action or these doings by some Muslims are because of two things. One is ignorance about Islamic teachings. The second one is that they want to oppress them.
I think that it's true to suggest that there are some families, Muslim families, who culturally want to adopt a hijab because of culture in Australia both and internationally as well. There are cultures who want to adhere or who fear the other sort of cultures or influence on their children, so they want to protect their girls by enforcing the hijab, and that would be a minority view. I think on the majority scale you'd have most Muslim families encouraging their daughters to wear hijab because of religious obligation and not necessarily enforced. And once they do come at an age where they can actually understand why they wear the hijab themselves, that it will actually be encouraged, and the daughters themselves, because of their Muslim identity, will themselves choose to actually wear it.
So what everyone needs to do, and it is mandatory to do it, is to advise that person on the principle of enjoining the good and forbidding the bad, but not to force or to take some physical actions and things like that, because that goes beyond the authority of individuals.
Okay, a lady and a man needs to understand that the obligations of Islam are not accepted if you're doing them forced to do them. If we try to put hijab on our women, they are not understanding why do they put the hijab and why do they have to follow the teachings of Islam. It is very, very crucial that we need to make them understand rather than just pressurizing to do it without understanding.
Let there be no compulsion in religion. Truth stands out clear from error. Whoever rejects evil and believes in Allah has grasped the most trustworthy handhold that never breaks, and Allah heareth and knoweth all things. Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow, verse 256.
It is the assumption from the feminist view or position that Muslim women observe hijab because of subordination imposed on them by the men, because the Islamic culture wants to oppress them, as opposed to it being a freedom of choice. So if that is their view on women should wear whatever they want, as a Muslim, or then taking on the argument, I should be able to and allowed to practice my religion, dress the way I please. Unfortunately, within the feminist perspective, that is not the case when it comes to hijab. If you look at the position of France at the moment, they are the ones who are trying to, or they've already imposed the ban, but the feminists are the ones who try to impose the ban initially to free the Muslim woman.
What's really funny about that is that they're sure that they're saving the girls, you know. They think that it's great what they're doing because they're going to save those poor girls from wearing the veil, and they're going to save their life, you know.
First and foremost, the hijab is a religious obligation, not really a symbol. So, you know, firstly, it is unfair and a violation of human rights for the French government to impose such a ban, because it is a religious obligation. It is not a symbol.
People will still be wearing like symbols, religious symbol, but obviously not the veil, because they will get in trouble now because it's a law.
After all the negative press about Muslims, I was really just fed up. I mean, I just get sick of all the negative press that we're constantly bombarded with on television, in the newspaper. And I wanted to say, you know, I'm an Aussie, I'm an Australian Anglo background person, I'm a Muslim. I was a Muslim for 5 years before I put on my hijab, and I just wanted to say, I'm a Muslim, I'm proud, this is my religion, I want to practice my religion, and I want to show people that I'm happy to practice my religion, and I'm proud to practice my religion.
And what was interesting about that seminar is how, because most of the audience were non-Muslim, but how little they understood why Muslim women do wear the hijab. A lot of them thought it was a cultural indoctrination where parents also force their daughters to wear hijab, but that is not the case. And it was also interesting to note that a lot of them were associating wearing the hijab with oppression and terrorism, and they actually did specify or outline how when they walk in the street, it's difficult for them to not fear walking past a veiled woman. I thought that was actually a sad note, but I think that the media has a lot to say for this, because they actually associate a veiled woman with oppression or veiled woman with terrorism, which has a lot of influence on the layperson, especially Australian people.
Imagine that a girl wearing the veil won't, for example, talk to a guy or talk to someone. It's not Muslim, that it means that it's a sign of distinction. Like this, she will only hang out with girls that wearing the veil.
I think